All right, people, back at it. Literally, I'm back at it. I just signed off on one show, hopped on another. That first show, of course, is Running with War, basketball talk from me and my guys at War Media here. Feel free to check that out when you get a chance. Dave is coming on with me. He's just sent me a message. He'll be on momentarily. And as will Skyzoo, our special guest this evening. Fantastic rapper. Think if you were showing up tonight, I think he'll probably be the primary reason why. If you aren't familiar with the show, hopefully we'll make you familiar and you will, enjoy what you hear from us and see. But definitely we are glad to have Sky on, man. We very, me and Dave speak. I can speak on his behalf. They'll definitely appreciate his work, Sky's work, and throughout the years, and definitely has been really, really cool to be able to connect with him and talk to him about his new record, new album. Really a great album. All the brilliant things. I just listened to it again. Listened to it a couple times already. Listened to it again this afternoon. Like I say, just one of the smoothest albums this year, and another great, platform for his incredible lyricism and everything. So we're gonna get into all that, that went to that album, and all his thoughts on, just being a dope MC and being, keeping on. He's had some health issues and has some issues, sort of staying, wanting to keep going as an MC and everything. So we're gonna get into some of that too. It's not easy keeping up as an artist out here in nowadays. And we talk to that's what we like to get into with artists on this show when we have them on. And we had our guy Neek on last week. So we went to a lot of the same stuff. If you haven't seen that show, check us out. Check out our previous shows, our previous playlists in the building, and watch that show along with others. But here's my man Dave coming on live from California. What's up, brother?
Yeah. I heard that. I heard you kind of going through kind of the summary of what's to come and what we've done last week, and just kind of a heads up. And I don't know if we can do it towards first end or towards the later end, but I want to talk to him about just the concept behind. I don't know if you remember on his 2017 Skyzoo's 2017 album, Peddler theme, where he talked about bamboo and really the concept behind that. Because I think we had discussed that before. That was from that movie Strapped.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to know how he took such a relatively, I don't know, forgetful, in my mind, forgetful movie and made it into not only a dope song but a dope video. And it's one of my, and from one of Sky's, from one of the more until the most recent project, it's been one of my favorite songs of his.
That was a dope project, definitely. I think part of the conversation definitely is going to get into his influences and everything, and what drives. I think Sky, one of the things that impresses me about him is that he's a writer as much as he is a performer, and he really leans on his pen, whereas a lot of guys, I think a lot of so-called rappers, they sort of try to lift them, they sort of try to brag on how easy it is for them to express themselves as rappers, or they do stuff like they do and say stuff like, well, I don't write lyrics and stuff like that. Like, that's not the type of guy Skyzoo is. He's really literate in general, and his work speaks to people who are literate. So it's, we talk about literature, you're talking about works that speak not only to the present, speak to the present times, and speak to people and people's general sense of self. It also speaks to other works of art. So whether it's something like a a little regarded movie like Strap, or a Spike Lee movie, or you know or past past. We definitely gonna get into his influences in regards to using jazz samples and stuff like that. The way that he incorporates past works and stuff, known works and otherwise into his beats and his songs it speaks to the kind of mind that dude has. So we definitely gonna get to stuff like that. But yeah, as he should be on shortly. I think I told him about 5 after. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how soon he comes on. But in the meantime, how things been with you, man?
I mean, they've overall been all right. I mean, dude, like I don't know. I mean, it's a terrible thing to compare it to, but like every time I think I'm having a challenge or look at whatever limitations that are going on in life, I talk to somebody at home and I'm like, God damn. I mean,
Yeah.
I talked to my aunt who lives at your old building, and she was giving me some more horror stories this past weekend about them, and I was just like,
Oh man.
she mentioned it's good times level bad over there, or coming to America level bad over there, and I'm just like,
I can see that.
and and it's really interesting because unfortunately, when not to go too far off deep end, but when you establish a certain background with somebody, they don't trust you. So I shared this information with my pops. He's like, nah, she lying. So I was like, well, Kyle could confirm that with you. I mean, he can't tell you about the newest, latest crazy, but he could tell you about what was going over there during his experience. When he was there.
I got a couple good stories.
Well, I let him know. I let him know to hit you up because fortunately, he's very cynical just in general, and
You know what?
well, I mean, that's not. I mean, that's not his. That's not where he. I mean, that's not where he works. I mean, that's so he wouldn't know about fortunately about what's in that area, and ironically enough, that's probably one of the few real problematic landlords over there. I mean, they kind of a lot of them kind of got bought out. I mean, or they sold their stuff. The ones that was problematic, a lot of the time they sold their buildings to other people.
They didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't really care about their buildings anyway.
right. So they kind of phased out of the game. So a lot of it over there is like more like leaning towards the luxury rental thing right now, and that building is kind of old school in its approach towards things, even though it may try to present otherwise. And I think
Mhm.
so. For me, just having those conversations just always keeps things and reference to me. And then talking to talking to other family members and friends. I talked to Tremaine. I talked to Tremaine, and I had heard from her in a year, and she. So it's just when you have those conversations with people back home, unfortunately, you don't get a whole lot of good news. I think the recent good news is I think they caught the dude who did the Humble Park murder during the Puerto Rican Day Parade.
Yeah, he was
I think that
in.
was
He was out. It was out in San Diego.
he was in San Diego. I mean, like I don't know. When I saw how like old he was, I'm like, dude, you too damn old to be involved in this. Just ignorance. I mean, and you know,
Yeah,
but
that's a horrible story, man. That whole thing, man. But
yeah.
man,
But anywho,
yeah, we'll build on more, with craziness going on in Chicago. But I'm glad to introduce our guest this evening, the one and only Skyzoo.
Peace, peace.
How you doing, brother?
Brothers, how you doing?
We good, man. We really appreciate you coming on and building with us, man, and really been looking forward to this conversation, and glad to see that you're doing well, and like I say, joining us here this evening, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. And yeah, it's love, man. I'm ready to break it down.
Yeah. We got a lot. We ain't gonna try to hold you too long tonight, but we do got quite a bit of things. Because we've been. I think me and Dave have both been following you for about the the bulk of pretty much the entirety of your career. And I think you've been, I was going to go over your discography a little bit for those who don't know as well. You've been, I believe it's been like 15 years you've been releasing projects. The 3-Day High came out in 06.
Yep.
And, now you released another album here in 2021. A lot has gone on in your life. You've become a father. You've, seen a lot of the world and the industry and everything. And, it's really, as we've grown too as adults, you're really an artist who I think me and Dave have really grown with. And we're all about the same age. Yeah. So it's like we've seen a lot together. So it's really, it's weird how those things, I'm just thinking about those sort of things and combining, combining sort of things. But, I guess I just want to start off though with a couple of interesting things that I'm glad to go to right away because, I don't talk to many native New Yorkers. I've been talking to many New Yorkers who've been lifelong New Yorkers. And it's funny, our last show, we titled it Everything is 7:30. And, that little bit of slang, I wanted to confirm something with you. Like the origins of that slang, did it come from, I hope you know, did it come from the hands on the clock, or did it come from like a police scan number?
I just knew it meant crazy.
Yeah, you just doing the definition.
Crazy. Like as kids, it was like 7:30, yo, he crazy, he wild. Or yo, it's 7:30 out here, it's crazy. Like we just knew it was crazy. You know what I mean? Like that was how I knew it as a kid. I don't think I ever really dug into the origins of it myself. It was just, with slang, everything is context. And that's why we have such a unique way about how we speak as Black folk from the inner city, because everything is context. Somebody could say one thing and it means something. You could say the exact same thing 5 minutes later and it means something else because it's all context. So, I just knew it was crazy. Like, yo, this is crazy, but that's 7:30. You know what I mean? Like that. That was how I knew it growing up.
Oh, okay. I just had that on my mind because, like I said, that was our last show that we had, and that was this particular thing because we had started at that time 7:30, but we was also going into a lot of crazy shit that was going on in the world. That was sort of our theme for the episode. But another thing that I wanted to go into in that episode that we actually didn't get into was the anniversary of the Nas joint. It was written, and that's actually something that you cite on your new album. There's a line that goes at 7 the God hour. That's if you follow the tradition started by the school block for the Apollo, you said. And I just wanted to get right quick, like your thoughts on, if you had any thoughts on Nas in particular, but just the whole idea of sort of, because one thing that I really, as far as a theme or an overall arching sort of critical view of this album is it really shows your ability to bring the classic hip hop flavor and hip hop, standards, put it together with a sort of progressive thought and progressive way of expression that you have naturally as a writer. And, your references, your ability to reference musically and, lyrically the past and the stuff that brought you up and made you into who you are is really, again, that's something that really resonates with me because, again, I've seen so many of the same things that you see in real time, those same artists. So, for you, how was that important for you that you sort of carry on those certain lyrical or musical standards as you made this album in this particular project? And what did it mean for you? What does it mean for you? And what was that? How much was that a part of your creative process for this album?
It means a ton. It's for sure a part of my makeup musically, but it's not something I set out and say, okay, I gotta I got to take a Nas line off this album to remind people of the real. And it just happens organically. You know what I mean? Like I'm just writing and it just happens because that's the stuff I listen to as if it just came out. That's the stuff that I love. You know, I listen to It Was Written and Illmatic and Ready to Die, Reasonable Doubt, Liquid Swords, Purple Tape, Iron Man. Like that's the stuff I listen to on the regular. You know, if I'm not listening to jazz, I'm listening to that type of stuff. I keep my ear to the new stuff, of course, but you know, a lot of my time, if it's not jazz, a lot of my hip hop time is that type of stuff. So I'm just tapping in on the stuff that I love, but I'm not consciously saying I gotta go grab a so-and-so line to keep it authentic. Nah, not at all. Like it just comes with it. But going to the Nas part real quick that you mentioned, just because I feel like he deserves it. I mean, I absolutely love Nas. You know, Nas is one of the guys who, from afar, of course, raised me musically. You know, there's guys who raised me musically and lyrically. Big, J, Nas, The Genius, Jadakiss, Mace, Mos Def, Kweli, Black Thought. Those are the guys that raised me lyrically, you know, and raised me as far as. And so you can hear all those guys in my music without a doubt. You know, you watch a ball player play, you know, I'm a Penny fan. You see him, you know, sitting right behind me. And you knew Penny was raised by Magic Johnson even before he ever met him. You know, Magic raised Penny without ever meeting him, you know, because you could see it in his game. So it's the same thing with me. You know who I was raised on because you can hear it in me. You know, I don't sound like those guys, but I sound like a hybrid of inspiration from those guys. You know, no one's ever said, yo, that's a fake Nas or a fake J. You're never going to get that. But what you will get is, I know he grew up on the real. You can hear it, you know?
Yeah. That's, you know, that's the quality I think that really makes, you know, that's really allowed me to really keep you up as one of my favorite MCs. Your ability to synthesize those previous people who have established, you know, what hip hop is, those previous influences, and just like, you know, use your own voice to further advance the culture and further establish yourself as, you know, who you want to be in this game too. That's important. That's the value. That's really the thing that all writers of all types try to do. We try to, you know, work with our influences, but, you know, not be so burdened by them that we can't formulate our own voices.
Right. No, 100%. You know, I always say when I make music, my music is, I never sit down and say, I want to make music pretending it's 95, 96, man, because I just can't get out of that era. No, not at all. My music is, what would hip hop sound like today if what was winning in 95 and 96 never died down, if it just continued to grow up? So this kid in 95 is now an adult in 2021. What would he be like? That's what the music is. The kid being hip hop, right? Like if that sound and that style and that attention to detail and lyricism and the production and all that stuff that was running things in 95, 96, if that stuff just continued to grow up and elevate and mold and you know, just turn into something and just grow, what would it sound like? Well, it would sound like this. If that sound never died. You know?
Definitely. I want to take it back to sort of that area of time in a minute, and based off of one of the better songs on your project with the one you talk about observing Biggie. But I know Dave is itching to say something here, so I'm gonna let Dave.
So no, what I was gonna say is that even when you put yourself kind of in the, you know, as far as influences by the canon of the greats, I mean, I think one thing that I can kind of say to, you know, to attest to you and even kind of not necessarily a slight to them is that your quality control has always been consistent. I mean, if anything is like that, there's not like albums that I really can like pick out and say, I like this album better than the other, or say this album, or you can play favorites, but you can't necessarily say, well, this last album wasn't as good, this one is better. And unfortunately, I can kind of do that, and I can personally attest to that with some of the greats. I mean, Kyle and I've had that conversation with like the Nas, and just something like the quality control, and it may not even be rhymes, but maybe from a production standpoint, being, you know, some albums be stronger than others. But that's been one of the testaments to you, is that you're consistently, you know, I guess, strong on each album. You may just touch on different subject matters, but the content and the consistency is there. So that's one big thing. And then also, and I don't know when we were going to kind of get into this lane, but one thing that I also like is that there's a reoccurring of themes. So on this album, What Money Taught Us, which I for some reason thought was like the last cut, I think used the same sample as Short Money and Peddler's Things. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. It was very similar.
Long Money.
Yeah, Long Money. Correction, Long Money.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's not the same joint, but it's the same group. It's off the same album.
Oh, okay.
But I get why, because that whole album feels like that. You know what I mean? Like that whole it's an album from a band called Cortex, and their whole joint. If you don't have it, get it. It's insane. It's all French. There's not a lick of English in it, but it's a French jazz album from the 70s. That mad people chop stuff off of there, from MF Doom to Rick Ross. Like, you know what I mean? It's a really, really great album. It's a producer's dream come true. But the whole thing has that vibe. So it's two different joints, but
okay, got it. Yeah, and Long Money was my favorite song on Peddler's Things until I heard Bamboo. And one of the things that, when I found out what the source material Bamboo was, I asked myself, like, how the hell did he take such a terrible, I could say terrible movie, challenging movie. I mean,
movie, don't do
challenging movie for the time. I mean, I understand the 90s was kind of like a time when people were trying different things to appeal to urban audiences. So I do understand why Strapped, was made.
A lot of those movies weren't financed the way that they could have been,
Right, that's a big part of it. That they didn't give the budgets to them the way they would have gave it to people who looked a little different. But go ahead. You were saying how did I take the movie
and you took a movie that, at least in my personal opinion, is not one of my favorite 90s, hood movies.
Right.
And took it and made it not only into a dope song but a dope video. Bamboo was probably, up until this album, was probably one of my consistent played, songs, just personally, because the drums and the horns on that is insane. Yeah. And I've been trying to find a sample, but I can't find a sample.
I don't know if there's a sample. I gotta ask Mark. My man Mark Infinite did that.
I thought it was incredible. I wasn't sure if it was Incredible Bongo Band, like the not the horns, but the
drums and all that. I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, he's from DC, so if it was, that would make sense, because bongo and percussion and all that's DC stuff, but I don't know. I'll ask him. Now I'm curious. I appreciate that. Yeah, Bamboo. I remember when I did that, when I heard the beat, I was like, oh my gosh. When I did boom, 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 I was like, oh my gosh, like, where's the pen? I need to write right now. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you write and it's just overflowing. Like, if you catching water and it's just spilling out, like, that's what I was like, yo, where's the pen? Like, I got it right now. And it just came to me like that. The first thing that came to my mind, I said, my man said that he Bamboo on the steps, and it just boom. You know what I mean? It just I was like, oh, we out of here. And that might have took, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to write that whole song. And I just started flying, and that was it.
I played it in the car at top volume. I used to have Acura MDX, and it's not very big, and it would be playing at top of the volume.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too, man. It was cool when Fredro tapped in and he was like, yo, this shit is incredible, man. And then we wound up working off of that. Like, I was on the last Onyx album off of that, because he heard that and he hit me on the gram and was like, yo, that shit is incredible, man. Like, wow. And then we just switched info, and then he was like, yo, we about to work on this next Onyx joint. And I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm in. Like, and the last joint, Black Rock, I'm on that album.
Okay. Well, now, since we're into that sort of goes to a place I want to go into in a minute with meeting other idols and stuff like that. But before, since we're talking about samples and stuff, I want to get back to the new album. And
you can't talk about samples too crazy, because then we get in trouble. So
hey. Well,
you and Spike must be good friends, because I heard it's a lot of You Do the Right Thing in that album.
Yeah, well, Spike is my man, because we, I did Spike was my hero. We did the video. Like, Spike is my homie. You know what I mean? Like, we text all that. Like, Spike is my man.
I was going to see. I want to ask about that too, but whether I'm trying to
music samples. Even what we did now was a little touchy, but it was cool. You know what I'm saying? But movie samples, we could fly. We could let that fly. Yeah.
Well, see, the music samples I think are pretty or I hope you cleared them, but they're pretty obvious. They're pretty,
yeah. You know, this
recognizable. Yeah, like
sure.
The first one I wanted to ask though was about see, I gotta get the pronunciation. Krungbin, Krungbin, I should say. God. Krungbin, yeah. So you recognize that on the Culturish track. Yeah. Were you up on them when?
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I figured.
I put that together. I sent that to Mark, like, yo, let's flip this. I put that together. Okay. I'm a huge fan of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I told Dave a little bit about it too. I don't know how much you listen to it, Dave, but that's a track called White Gloves, right? I think.
I don't know. I
got that track. But I see. Let me stop there. Let me stop. Let me stop.
Yeah,
but I got that track.
Let's talk about the lyric. Nah, but
my fault.
When you talk about like how you was talking about my catalog, and I didn't get to thank you for that because I know we rolled right into a question. So I appreciate how you felt about that. Just talking about how I've never had, how I've never had a dud. You know, I don't believe in that, man. I don't believe in duds. You know, we're not doing that over here. Because you're absolutely right. All of our favorites, we could look at them and be like, yo, I love so-and-so. He had that one joint that wasn't that great. We skipped that. But everything else was great. I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be able to say, you can't say that about me if you're being honest. Yeah, you could try to be funny, but if we're being honest, you can't say that about me. Every joint, when it comes out, people talk, yo, this might be one of the albums of the year. Yo, this the album. Yo, I don't know how you're going to top this. And then a year later, I top it. They're like, yo, he did it. Yo, I don't know how you're going to top it now. Like, so that's just a testament to, one, God-given talent, thank God. And then two, just my competitive nature of just wanting to continue to be better. Like, no matter how nice I am, just wanting to continue to be even nicer today than I was yesterday. So saying all that, the way you feel about that, that's how Khruangbin is. Like, everything they drop is insane. There's no duds. Yeah, like every album, every project, every song is absolutely insane from them. Like, they definitely got a Skyzoo catalog. You know what I mean?
Well, like I say, I'll stay away from specifics, but I do want to get into your penchant for jazz and your penchant for, like I say, your love for that type of music, because that's something that I share as well, and I think that I think Dave, as well. Like jazz is just, for me, there's nothing better than the fusion of jazz and hip hop. Like when whether it's old school stuff like Gang Starr and Tribe and all this that type of classic, that type of classic hip hop, or even stuff to in the modern day. Like I listen to something like the joint off, or really a lot of that Makami album this year uses jazz effectively as well. As much as short of you, like I've heard, like from what I've heard recently, but a lot of cats like that, a lot of cats are open to using those type of beats, but you really have been, throughout your career, have just really set that tradition, kept that tradition alive, I should say. And you've done, I know you've done things like a playlist that you have on Spotify that you keep, weekly set of jazz records and stuff like that. And why is jazz such a important part of your life and such a a compelling a source for you as an artist to keep in your music?
It's just the dopest thing in the world is jazz. Like I'm a huge jazz head. It's a two-part fold. It started as a kid, but I wasn't into it as a kid. And I remember being a kid and my pops being a jazz head, and he would like play jazz in the car, and then I would flip it back to hip hop. So we would go back and forth between jazz and Hot 97, and then we would like playfully argue, and he would be like, yo, stop touching the radio. And I remember saying to him, I would say, this music is stupid. It doesn't even have any words. And I remember he said, one day this stupid music is gonna be something you in love with. Because for me as a kid, I was a writer my whole life. Like, you go back to my kindergarten report cards, all they talked about was my language arts skills. Like, I was a writer my entire life. You know, it definitely was God given. So as a kid, I was looking for the writing. I was looking for the words. I was looking for the stories. And I was like, I literally said, yo, this music is stupid. It doesn't even have words. And he said, you're going to love this stupid music when you get older. I bet you. So fast forward later, I'm in college and I'm watching Mo Better Blues. Because when Mo Better came out, I was like 8 years old. So I had no business watching Mo Better. You know what I mean? Like, girls got joints out and all that. I ain't no business watching Mo Better at 8 years old. You know what I mean? So I saw Mo Better later on, but it might have been like my second or third time really, really watching it. And I think I was like freshman in college, and I just fell in love. That's when it hit. So it's kind of like my pops threw the rock up, and Spike caught the alley and yammed it. You know what I mean? Like, it was like they did it together. Like, as far as getting me into jazz, my pops started it. He threw the alley up. My pops just came in and hit him. You know, with and Spike came in and hit him with the yam. So yeah, when the movie went off, man, I went and bought the CD of Love Supreme, and I bought the CD of Kinda Blue, and that was it. I was in. I was like, I don't really want to listen to nothing else. So that was when I was a freshman in college in 2000, 2001. So it's been 20 years of me just being a jazz head, and just now I got this ridiculous jazz vinyl collection and OG. I mean, dudes older than my pops be like, yo, man, I don't know how you got some of these pieces, man. Like, your collection is phenomenal. Like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I've been 20 years in now, just digging. You know what I mean? So like, I'm a jazz head, and it shows in the music. So when I started making my music as far as my career, you know, I'm incorporating all the stuff I love. You know, I love dirty drums and, you know, gutter drums and the street as far as the drum aspect. And I love the melodicness of jazz and you know, how that comes together, but doing it right. A lot of people try to do it and they do it wrong, you know, but then they get credit because, oh, it's jazz. Like, so it must be great musically. And like, you could do a lot of things and jam it up, you know, so it's about doing it right. And if you don't know the history and the culture and the music, you don't have that ear for it, you're going to jam it up. You're not going to really be able to pull it off right. So I love the fact that I'm able to pull it off in a unique way.
That ability, that willingness to fine tune and to really, you know, have attention to details. That's something again that I don't know as many rappers and know them as personally as you do, but it seemed from observing from outside that sort of attention to detail isn't it isn't widespread in the game. So I don't know, but would you say that that's the case, or you know, do you think you're rare in that area, or is it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's other people doing. There's also a lot of people trying to, you know, like I see the people that study what it is as far like how I'm doing it, and then try to do it like I'm seeing it, and that's cool. That's fine. I don't take that in a negative way. It's positive to know that I'm influencing so many people. You know, I talk about it on the album where, you know, I said, you know, how can I be appalled when they was raised by me? You know, I said on I was supposed to be a trap rapper. I said, shout to all the hybrids who followed on my road. Like, I mentioned it throughout the album. I said it on Soft Eyes. You know, I talked about, you know, how they came from me, you know, like, so it, you know, I see it, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. That's cool, you know.
And I'll let you get back in a second there, but I had to keep I kept this bookmark today. Benny on the Benny the Butcher on Twitter said you the Oracle.
You know, my brother. Every time I see him, he say that. Every time I see Benny, he say that. And I see Benny all the time because that's my fam. You know what I mean? You know, the whole Griselda team, those are like my brothers. Like, we be at each other's house. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember one of the first times I heard Gun. It might have been the first time was on that track with you with the Tribe sample
on Luxury.
Luxury, yeah. That might be one of the first times I heard.
First thing we did was on his tape. We did Rolex. That was 2014. Yeah, definitely. So those guys is family. Like, my pops did the catering for Wes baby shower for his kid. You know what I mean? Like, those guys are my family. You know what I mean? But every time I
speak of your father having a restaurant in Atlanta on the album too, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's what it was. My pops catered the food for his baby shower. You know what I mean? Like, we're family. You know what I mean? So we minus the blood. You know what I mean? Like, we fam. But every time I see Benny, he be like, "Yo, Sky, you the Oracle." You know, so it's love. Like, that's my bro for real. All of them, West, all of them.
That's what's up, and you know they some of the best going right now, man. I fuck with them heavy too. So you know, and like I say, part of it again is who you know. A lot of hip hop is who you're connected to, and list, you know, who co-signs you. Sometimes that's a bad thing because you know some people get put on, you know, otherwise may not get put on because of that. But you know, that's in your case, you know, you've helped expose a lot of people to some artists who, and you look at those cats, you know, they were just on the BET Awards and stuff like they doing it right now, man.
I love to see it because, like I said, those guys is family. I love to see it. Yeah. I knew it would go there. You know what I mean? I knew it would go there. Same thing with like Joyner Lucas. Joyner Lucas is like my little brother. You know, I've known Joyner since he was 16. I literally was on the phone with him today. Like, family. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, I knew that was going to go. I remember telling him at 16, yo, you're going to be out of here. You know, and now he's out of here. So, like, you know, yeah, I love to see it. You know what I mean?
One more thing along this string, because, you know, I mentioned, you know, the mock joint earlier, and you know, like Wes is into these curation projects now, and you know, he's putting out apparently he's helped put together the Dave East joint that's about to come out. You know, in regards to you, you know, we talk a little bit about your future coming up, but would that be something that you would be interested in ever, like sort of doing a Griselda curated project?
Totally, because again, that would just be working with my fam. So for me, it wouldn't even be about the, oh man, look what he did. Like, it wouldn't be about that. I mean, of course that would come with it and that would be amazing, you know, all the press and the looks and whatever, but that would just be working with my bro, you know what I mean? Like, I'm at his house drinking Henny anyway. You know what I mean? So all right, we press play on some beats and get busy, you know what I mean? Like that's you know, that's fam. So I would totally be into that. Absolutely. That would be awesome. He's an awesome individual. And as great as the music is, he's an even greater person. You know, all of them are. Khan, Benny, all of them, you know, down to the guys who y'all may not know, like Malek and Burton, and you know what I mean? Like, there's so many of them guys that's family that, you know, and those are all great guys.
That's what's up. Shout out to Buffalo.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, Dave, you got something, man?
Yeah, no, what I was going to say and mentioning kind of Griselda is that I think one of the things that them being your people, but one of the things that kind of, I guess, distinguishes you amongst your peers is to be able to be, you know, to have great content and not have to fall into the dope, I don't want to say the dope rap, for lack of a better, you know, the trap rappers standpoint, perspective. And I think that speaks volumes because it's really, because as much as personally as I love, you know, appreciate Griselda, a lot of it sometimes gets a little bit heavy-handed, for lack of a better term. I mean, and for me, you know, it's nice to have somebody who can, one, have ties to the street, but also, you know, talk about things like you did on the most recent album, talk about just like the effects of gentrification. And it's something that's real,
right?
It's pushed you, I don't say it's not pushed you to Atlanta, but at the same time, it's got you further south.
Yeah, you know, and I think the way you put that together, you kind of nailed it as far as my involvement with it all, because like, okay, you take, like you mentioned the Griselda stuff and you know, me being so close to them, but also the type of music that I make is on another side of the fence, but then it's on that side of the fence. Like, I could get on a Benny album and a Conway album and a West Side album and not sound out of place, but also not sound like I'm reaching. You never hear a record and be like, yo, man, Sky got on that Fly God and he was talking all this drug and coke and gun stuff. Nah, but I'm able to get on a record like that and be myself and not be out of place, still do what I do, but make perfect sense on the record. And then, I mean, you look at music from my friends. You got See a Key with Jadakiss, and then the very next song is Money Makes Us Happy with Black Thought and Bilal. Those couldn't be two different worlds of artists, but they make perfect sense on those two songs. Make perfect sense on that album. They make perfect sense going back to back with one another, and I make sense on both records. That never happens. Like and this isn't me gloating. This is me just keeping it a bean. Like I don't know how many artists can do that type of thing and it makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like do records with Little Brother and then do records with Styles and Jadakiss and then do records with Black Thought and then do records with Kweli and then do records with Griselda and then do records with Sean Price. I don't know too many people that can dance in those worlds and not lose a two-step. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes.
Keep that authenticity the whole time. Yeah.
Right.
I think. I mean, your versatility is definitely, renowned in that space. Not necessarily to be able to pair with them people, and not necessarily be able to blend in with them at the same time, or feel like you have to, outdo them. You have your own lane and you crafted it well. And you mentioned See a Key, and See a Key is a great song that kind of, that references what it is without necessarily getting into just being basic with it. And I think, and that's whatever, and if that tests to your skill, technical skill too, because I mean, you can kind of, you can compare it to Nas's Tech on the Dresser without necessarily, similar, or the Gun, or I Gave You Power. In some instances, it's the same level of just creating a metaphor, or for what, something else that was somebody else.
Yeah, and talking about it without. There's a way to do it, and it's a very thin line of like talking about it without glorifying it and being like, yo, we out here but then also not shitting on it. Like drugs are bad and guns are bad and say no to, like there's a thin line that you walk that you got to really dance on, and not a lot of people are able to do that. And that's something I've been doing since day one. I mean, I was just talking to somebody about this. The very first record people heard of me outside of New York was the Bodega. There was a Knife Wonder beat, and I was talking about my man being outside with pieces and the hammer on them and what goes on at the corner store and how much you could cop for on an underground backpack Knife Wonder beat. And every part of it made sense.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you mentioned the Bodega, and that's still one of my favorite songs by you and favorite samples by Knife. I can't even watch The Wire without thinking about that song. Like certain shows like The Wire, I can't even watch them without thinking about that song, just because it represented what that experience is. And we don't, Chicago, you don't have bodegas, you got corner stores, things like that. But at the same time, it resonates, wherever you're at. And I think that's one thing you definitely did well. But back to the same point as far as being able to talk about, I guess, about, certain content without glorifying it, you did that well. Back to Bamboo, just talking about straw purchasing. It's like, it didn't necessarily go and say, you know what, this is great or this is just awful. It just ultimately you kind of had an everyman view, or even more of a news view of what it was. And I think that's something that really also distinguishes your ability from some of the other people. And I think that's unfortunate when you kind of mention influences, and you kind of mentioned Joyner Lucas and you mentioned Benny. And I wonder, is there other people out there that we're missing who you feel like you see influences yourself in?
Well, I don't see, let me get that clear. I don't see influences of myself in like Benny and Joyner, not at all. I mean, they're totally doing their own thing. I was just saying those are guys that I've known for a while and that they've been getting busy, and I'm family with those guys. You know what I mean? So I don't want it to seem like that's the narrative I'm painting, because I'm totally not. They both do very different things from me musically, and they do them well. But there are artists out there who I see my influence all over. I ain't gonna get into it, but there's artists out there, and again, I'm not mad at it. It's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, like, you see over my shoulders, you see Penny, like we talked about, and I don't think Magic Johnson had a problem with Penny becoming him. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, yo, yeah, this kid is killing it. Like, he's the new me. He's killing it. I think that's, you know what I mean? So I look at it kind of like I see kids, I see artists. I shouldn't say kids. I see artists who I know came up pressing play on a lot of stuff and still press play. Some of them have even told me like, yo, yeah, man, the way I write, the way I approach my music. Yeah, I was listening to you in high school, college. It made me comfortable going this way. I love that. You know what I mean? That's love, that shows what I'm doing is ringing and ringing loud,
Well,
I think we were one of those guys too, I would say. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm in it more in a way, and I know what I don't know, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think you kind of making, I guess you're trying to avoid making like the Ghost and maybe like an Action Bronson type reference. Like, like I know saying, well, like this guy's biting my style. But the reason why I ask you is that is, and Colin, I've had this conversation numerous times. It's just it it can get hard finding like glimpse of hope in the younger generation as far as hip hop goes. So that's the reason why I asked that question. So it's like if I'm missing somebody who you be like, okay, I see some hope in that dude. I see he sound like a little bit of me, then I can know like, okay,
Oh,
maybe I need to go
well,
listen to that. That's what I mean.
yeah, I feel
But
you.
Dave's looking for recommendations here.
Well,
Okay.
not even recommendations as much as it is, but if there's somebody you say, you know what, this is somebody who I feel like has elements of me, and this is somebody maybe, this is
Yeah,
somebody
I
you may
got
be missing out on, and
you. Yeah.
because most of the under you've mentioned it on I can't even you've mentioned it on some I can't even think of what the song Cost of Sleep, and you said the new these new motherfuckers born in the 80s are better, and then you kind of so you at that point of your career you kind of like said fuck all the young dudes. I'm not saying fuck them, but you had more of a you weren't as hopeful for the people that were out and who were out at that time.
Just the climate, just the landscape at the time. Yeah.
Right. So for you, that came out in 12 is 21, almost a decade later. Who are the
Mhm.
people that maybe you feel like that's some promise, or even if it's not elements of you, but some
Right.
level of promise on the way?
Man, just people who I think are like part of the newer generation who get super busy. I would definitely say Joyner, because he's a little younger. He's super. Who else? So much music out. It's hard to pick because there's so much music out that it's hard to like pinpoint, a couple here and there. But then when you're reminded of them, you go, oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, this one. Like there's
How
definitely
much do you sit and listen really? Because I know you said like you listen to a lot of
it's
jazz.
hard.
You listen to
It's
like
hard.
how much do you sit and listen to the guys today? Like
Not a ton, to be honest. As far as like just all this new stuff is out, yo, you gotta hear this. You got not a ton. I'm
and a
gonna
lot
be
of stuff,
honest.
a lot of like you say, a lot of shit comes out every week. It seems like,
Every
and
day, man. Every
it's
day, it's crazy, because
yeah,
there's so much room for people to make music. Anybody could go in the crib, open up the laptop, open up GarageBand, set up a mic that they got from Best Buy, put it in the bathtub, and record a project and put it on SoundCloud. Now that's music that exists, and some of it is really, really great, and some of it is trash. But the room to be able to do that, like when I was coming up, it was so hard to get in a studio in 90. When I was 15, 16, it was so hard to find a studio. First time I ever touched a studio, I won a talent show in my school at 15, and the grand prize was like 2 hours of studio time. And I was so
right.
nervous going into the studio because I'd never been in a studio before, and it was something I wanted more than anything. And it was like you had to know somebody who knew somebody who had the bread, who had connection. Now anybody could go record. You record in your phone and upload it to Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever. So I say all that, going back to your point, there's so much music out there, a ton. Like there's so much music out there, man. So it is hard to pick through and dig through stuff. But there's stuff out there that I'll be catching wind of, and I'm like, oh, that was crazy. Oh, this dude is dope. Oh, this girl is dope. Whatever. Like, there is some stuff out there that you kind of get it the way you got me. You just got to dig. The way people found me, they was digging. I've been on the radio, but I'm not a radio artist. I'm not a guy who's on the radio all the time. Not at all. I'm on the radio every now and then. That's cool. As far as terrestrial radio. I'm Sirius and all that XM. I'm on that pretty often. But you
were pretty. You were really like a standard of the blog era as well. Like
100%, 100%. The blog built me. 100%. The blog built me. Me and the Wale's and the cool kids and the Mickey Facts and you know what I mean, the Torres and like the blogs built us without a doubt.
I want to get into though, since not necessarily these not necessarily new guys, but people who you collaborated with, and particularly on this album. Like you got a lot of Chicago flavor on this album as far as collaborators. Our guys Hadid, Kenny Keys did a beat. You know, you had the brass ensemble was on the track with Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Yeah, so that's Chicago too. So I want to speak on that real quick about your connection to Chicago. We've seen, I've seen you twice here. I think you was at the Elbow Room one year. You probably don't even remember these.
I remember that. I remember the name.
The Elbow Room and Bourbon on Division was the most recent time I saw you. Yeah, and at that show you performed with Phil Moore and High D and these guys who you wound up touring with a couple years ago before the pandemic. I know for us, you know, we're friends with those guys. We've covered them for a few years and we've, you know, collaborated with them on stuff. And I know it was really exciting for them to tour with you. It was like their first big national tour like that as a group. And you know, what was that tour like for you? And you know, do you feel like it you know, how did you feel like bonding with those guys? Because y'all were on the road for a while.
Yeah. Well, the first part of your question, as far as Chicago, I love Chicago. You know, it's a city where I've never had a light show in Chicago. You know, as artists coming up, you do shows. Sometimes it's crazy, sold out. And sometimes it may be 40% of the room. You know, you might have a lighter night because it's a Wednesday in a random town in middle America. You know, like that's just a part of the game and it comes with it. I've never had a light show in Chicago because Chicago has always shown me a ridiculous amount of love. Every time I get booked for Chicago, I'm excited about it. I'm actually in the middle of booking a show out there now for this summer. So I should be out there in like another month or so. But
okay. You've been doing some spot shows here and there. Yeah, how's that been?
Yep, it's just getting it back going. COVID, you know what I mean? You know, I'm not doing full tours yet because of COVID, but just bringing it back. You know, the spot dates here and there. So Chicago is happening hopefully in like a month. But anyway, Chicago has always shown me tons of love. I love Chicago. Tons of love out there, man. Every time I'm out there, I feel like I'm family out there. You know, I got so many people that show love out there. So that's the connection with that. With all the heads on the album from Chicago, that was an accident. I didn't even really realize it right away until I was putting the credits together, like, you know, typing out the credits for the art. And I was like, yo, hold up. Like Kenny Keys, High D, Hypnotic, DJ. I was like, yo, this is a Chicago album. DJ, like, and then all three records that we dropped as singles were Chicago assisted. You know, the first joint produced by High D, featuring Hypnotic Brass, both from Chicago. The second one, Kenny Keys produced it, Chicago. The third one, my man Carl Marks in North Carolina produced it, but BJ is on it, Chicago. All three singles is Chicago affiliated. I'm like, man, they better buy every piece of this album. This is their album as much as it is mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's always been love out there, man. And then, you know, back to the touring element. Yeah, I brought Phil and High D out. You know, the first time I really built with them was at the Bourbon on Division show. That was the first time we really connected through my man Chuck. And Chuck was managing them and all that stuff. And, you know, he's a homie, so he linked me with them. And then we just kept in touch, you know, and me and Phil did a couple records and we kept in touch. And they were just really, really awesome dudes, all kinds of hospitality. And when you're touring, you can't just tour with anybody because you rolling around with people for 2-3 weeks at a time. You don't know how people move. You can wind up getting jammed. You hear stories all the time. So-and-so got arrested on tour. So-and-so tore up the hotel room and they got arrested and they owe, you know, $3,000 in damages. And now the venue don't want to book no more because they tore up the venue, or, you know, they was acting up on tour and, you know, did something crazy to some girl and, you know, something horrible. Like, you got to know who you're touring with, you know, and they're awesome, awesome dudes. So I knew from the vibe of just being out there that weekend, I was like, I could totally tour with them. They got their head on right. I could totally tour with them. And I brought them out. I was like, yo, do this Metropolitan tour, me and Elzai, yo, would y'all want to be down? And they was like, hell yeah. And I didn't know until we was almost done that was their first tour. And I told them that because the way they conducted themselves on the tour, there's a tour etiquette. Like, touring is work. It's a straight up job. Like, there's a certain way you got to conduct yourself. And they knew what to do. So when the tour was towards the end and it was like, yeah, this is our first tour. Thank you for bringing us out. And I was like, what? Like, it's your first tour? I was like, nah, y'all lying. It was like, no, it's our first tour. I was like, that's crazy. Like, y'all had it all figured out, you know, not to make this the Phil and Hadi show. But yeah, that it was they're awesome dudes, man. I love them to death. That's my family for sure.
Yeah, like I said, we those are dudes that we like to always hold up because we feel proud of the city with them, because there's a lot of shit that comes from the city that's problematic. So, but when you listen to those brothers,
and when you name, when you name names about who to listen to, Phil is definitely one of them guys for sure. Like Phil got great work. Concepts is great. The music is super dope. Like Phil is super dope.
Right. And then, I figured like when Dave was talking about how you come across people, that sort of got to be one of those pleasant surprises that you have as an artist when you maybe come across a beat from somebody like a Hadi, or you find yourself on a track with a Fillmore, and you're like, okay, this is another dude who gets it in the game, and you feel like you're a little
like you said, Dave, the hope. You know what I mean? Like that's a cool way to put it. So definitely.
Yeah. But go ahead, Dave.
No, I was gonna say that you mentioned the tours coming up. I was gonna say, how was your show at the Catch One? I was supposed to be there, then I got sick, unfortunately.
In LA. Yeah. I was like, which one was that? Yeah, no, it was super dope. Super dope. Yeah, that was the second show back since COVID. It was super dope. Had a blast, crowd was great, rocked out. Yeah, it was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave's out in LA, actually. He's from Chicago, but he's moved out.
Oh, okay. LA. Okay, got you.
Yeah, I have to catch the next one.
Yeah. yeah. But we gonna wrap up soon, man. Like, so really appreciate you coming on with us, man. And there's a lot of stuff I probably could still go into it with you. But
right.
Just going back to this album again, and like I said, one thing I wanted to get into before we went off was that great St. James Liquor track. And again, getting back to your history and your place in hip hop and the past, and reaching back to the past and informing the present and the future. You've been there to tell that story about seeing Biggie on the block and having that experience around him. Can you just speak to what it meant for you to have that sort of experience coming up, and how was it? How did it inform or sort of galvanize you as a person and as an artist, and into getting yourself into hip hop?
Yeah, I always say, just being from over there and just watching all that was all the inspiration I needed. When you're a kid, especially rhyming as a kid, I started rhyming when I was 9. And from day one, I was like, this is what I'm doing with the rest of my life. It never was a hobby. It was a passion and a love and something I saw as a career later on. So, I'm 9 years old. So now you fast forward 11, 12 years old, watching Big go from the guy on the corner to the guy everybody in hip hop is talking about, and albums all over the place. And, the song is on the radio all day, and they're shooting the video in the neighborhood, on the block, up the block, across the street from where we be every day. So you talk about inspiration. That's all you need. You're like, yo, that's all you need. Just seeing it, seeing it firsthand. So I didn't know Big because I was a kid. Sometimes people ask me like, yo, was y'all cool? And I'm like, man, I was 12. He was 21.
Like you was freestyling with him on the clip and stuff.
Right. There's no 21-year-olds that's cool with 12-year-olds unless they hustling for them. And that wasn't what I was doing. You know what I mean? So like, you don't hang out with 21-year-olds when you're 12. 21-year-olds don't think 12-year-olds are cool, and that's fine. So, but they was just the OGs up the block. They was the guys on the corner. They was the guy, if we walk to the store or we playing ball, they the ones sitting on the stoop talking about what they did last night, or rolling the L, or yo, what's up, shorties? Yo, what y'all doing? Like, we was those little kids, So when you see it happen from afar, but afar is really a block away, you like, yo, this is crazy. This could happen to me too. And that was all it was. Like, that was all I needed. So on St. James Liquors, I'm talking about two different types of OGs. I'm talking about a guy running the street, and then the guy running the music, as in Biggie. So you watching these two figures, and in both verses the same way. 13 with a view of how good a crown fit. Because to me, both of them was wearing crowns. And it's the symbolism, not even necessarily directly. I'm speaking direct, but there's a symbolism also of when you that young and you looking up to these guys, they both wearing a crown. You like, yo, dad, he doing it. He got this, he got that. He the man, yo, he doing it. Doing it, you got the crown. That's our terminology. So then same thing with the music. Yo, he doing it, man, blah, blah, blah. He got the crown, you know. So 13 with a view of how good a crown fit. Word to everyone I was running around with, you know.
You know, it's just to, I don't know, you got to go, but one last thing to kind of tie in. I'm sure about now you've seen, was it I Got a Story to Tell, the documentary on Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
When you saw that, how many of his influences were kind of like a shocker, or how many of them you just, you know, listen to him as a lyricist, you just kind of assume?
It was amazing. Shout out to D-Rock. You know, D-Rock obviously is an OG. And I know D-Rock, that's the homie. And he did an absolutely phenomenal job, you know, with that project. I think the dopest thing about it is it wasn't typical. Like, they didn't even touch how he got killed and all that. And I thought that was the dopest thing about it, because we know that story, right? But we didn't know the story of him going to Jamaica every summer. We didn't know the story of his grandmoms and his uncle being the reason he even got into the music. Like, we didn't know all that stuff. You know, you hear when he talks about O on Missing You on Life After Death. I was young. I didn't know who O was, you know. I was a kid. If I was older, I might have known who he was, but I was a little kid. I didn't know. So now you get to know who he was. Rest in peace to him. Now you get to know, you know what I mean? So that was the beautiful thing about it. And the dope thing about it too, that whole thing is my neighborhood. I know every block that they walked on. You know, like every block that camera touched, I've touched those blocks as well.
Yeah, and what I meant more like specifically was like his jazz influence. Like, I mean, his,
that was incredible.
That's what I mean, because like, you wonder if that would have came out if he lived longer. You know,
I'm sure it would have. I'm sure. And the way he rhymed had that type of element too, a little bit. And it also had the Jamaican element. The way he rhymes has a very reggae Jamaican patois element, just in not even the way he sound, but the cadence, like the where he stops at, and where it's real technical rapper stuff that some people won't get, but where he stops and then where he starts and then where he stops again and where he stops, all that stuff is really crazy. But the jazz element was so wild to see that, man. It was so dope to see that, because I didn't really know that at the time. And he lived in the neighborhood, you know, the jazz musician lived in the neighborhood. And I didn't really know that at the time. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's a real dope video. I don't know if you saw, it kind of came out around the time he passed earlier this year, but Shock G was sort of breaking down several lyricists.
Awesome.
They said, like, much like you just said, like, you know, Nas and Big, and you know, that it's real dope when to hear you guys speak like that about and have that knowledge or technical ability.
Yeah,
like,
there's a science to it, and it's not taught. You know, nobody sat me down and said, yo, so when you rhyme like this and hit that and hit this. Now, raising my son, if my son decides to rhyme one day, I'll give him the heads up on, all right, this is how you do this. This is the pocket. This is what you're looking for, whatever. But I ain't had nobody to do that for me. The guys who did it for me was the guys whose records I bought at the store. You know, my class was Ready to Die, Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt. It was Written, Liquid Swords. That was my class. You know what I mean? 36 Chambers. Like, that's how I learned to do what I do, you know, just from listening to them guys. But it's a science. It's a science behind the whole thing.
I got two more things I want to bring up. You mentioned, you know, the class, the syllabus that you had coming up, you know, of albums. And, you know, again, I want to go back to It Was Written as one of the, you know, the most recent anniversaries that seem to become a big thing now in hip hop, you know, looking back on albums and anniversaries and stuff. And, I've seen some people say we do it a little bit too much, because we do, like, I saw a dude on Twitter today, he said like a 13th anniversary don't mean nothing, but you know, your 25th anniversary is meaningful, and we've had that with It Was Written this couple weeks ago, and the stakes is high too, guys. Shout out De La. And but as far as It Was Written, I wanted to get your opinion on the way that album over time has been seen and accepted. You know, I don't know how you felt about the album at the time, but you know, of course, a lot of people was like, "Oh, Nas is shiny now, or he doing this mafioso stuff," and you know, he's not. You know, they thought he was selling out in some way, and you know, of course, that wound up being his most successful selling album, but it was also dope as hell. It always was dope. But now it seemed like it took a while for people to accept this dopeness and accept this, you know, quote unquote classic status. You know, so some albums got to work into that more than others. You know, but you know, I just want to get your thoughts on that, on how, you know, specifically that album, and also how we sort of are. You know, the sort of standard of classic and what that is in hip hop, and how that's sort of evolving or devolving. I don't know, how are you sort of reckoning with that? Because, you know, you got a couple albums yourself gonna be looking at 20-year anniversaries coming up soon, and you know, you have a back catalog of your own that people are gonna look at well beyond, you know, the time that you you know, the time that you want to keep on rapping. You know, what do you think about that as an artist?
First part, you asked about Nas. I loved it was written as soon as it came out. Still do. You know, it's easily one of Nas. It's probably Nas' second best album, without a doubt. You know what I mean? The bag that he was in on that. You know, the reason why people feel that way about it, or why they felt that way when it first came out, they didn't want Nas to grow up. You know what I mean? They wanted Nas to stay the 18-year-old kid in Queensbridge on the bench, you know, chipping in on a nickel bag of smoke. He grew up, started making some money. He still talked about Queensbridge all over. He talked about everything going on, but he grew up. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of like if you look at Snowfall, which is one of my favorite shows. I love Snowfall to death. The first season, they're like kids, Franklin and Leon and Ket. They're literally jumping on the bed, throwing money in the air because they're so excited. By the time you get to season 3, they're full on adults. It's only been a year between season 1 and 3, even though it's 3 seasons. Season 2 starts 4 months after, you know, the storyline is 4 months later, so it's the same year. So it's technically a year later. Yo, they full on adults. They're not jumping on no bed throwing 20s in the air because they're excited. They full on adults. You know what I mean?
They got so much stuff jumping off in the game.
Right.
That
they got success. They got success. They got stress. They got life. You know, they went from jumping on the bed, throwing money in the air, to Leon running in people's house, clapping people like, yo, nah, y'all not obeying the laws. You know what I mean? We went to Franklin letting Avi hold $2.5 million. You know what I mean? Like, they grew up. So I'd use that as a comparison with the 2 albums, where like Nas wasn't the 18-year-old kid in Queensbridge on the bench no more. Like, he grew up. He's supposed to have a Q45 Infinite. He's doing shows, maybe getting 10 grand a night now or whatever. Like, he's not supposed to do that. Like, he's not supposed to put on some Tommy now instead of the Carhartt. Like, what you talking about? But he didn't change in the sense of lyricism and the morals and what he talked about. They also wanted the sound to stay the same. You know, they was mad that the same producers wasn't on the album. And I love all those producers that's on Illmatic. Illmatic to me is the greatest hip hop album of all time, taking myself out of it so that I don't sound biased. So if you remove my stuff, to me, Illmatic is the greatest hip hop album of all time, bar none. But at the same time, he grew up, and Trackmasters killed that album. You know, they absolutely killed that album. There's so many records on there that I wish I had the instrumentals for. Like, it's just a fantastic album, but people wanted Illmatic Part 2. Yeah. And he's like, I grew up. I'm not broke no more. I don't got to chip in on a $5 bag. I can go get a $100 jar from Branson. I'm not broke no more. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? So, you know, but nah, it was written is amazing. I think people who look at it that way are just, they the idiots, or they're just stuck in this one thing. They just want everything to sound like the boom and the bap and you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, you can do that.
Yeah, I would hope that not too many people at this point are feeling that way, but you never know.
I would hope not. You know, but back then, I remember like back, you know, like I said, back then, I remember like y'all do, you know, the way they was trying to hit that album, but it popped. You know, it popped. It's the one that did the numbers. It's the one that took care of everything moving forward, and it's a great album. He ain't sell out nothing. The only thing he sold out was a record store. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't sell out nothing. Like, it's a hell of an album. Is it Illmatic? Nah, but it's a hell of an album. He did not lose a step. He did not lose a beat. He blacked out on every record. Like, it's great. I love that album. Great album.
And in regards to, like I say, as an artist, you know,
Right.
You
The
know,
second,
when you try things,
yeah.
you know, I'm sure there've been times probably when you've gotten feedback about things that you've done that you may have been like, well, there's a disconnect here. You know, have you felt that way?
Honestly, not really. You know, and that's one of the blessings that I've had. Like we talked about earlier when Dave mentioned it, just having a catalog that people can't really shoot at. You know, and that's a blessing. You know, God forbid that ever changes. Having a catalog that you can't say nothing about. Okay, I did this album with Apollo Brown. I did this album with Pete Rock. But they're both really great fucking albums. Like, you know what I mean? So like you may lean more towards the Apollo joint, or you may lean more towards the Pete joint, and that's fine. Everybody has their favorite work, but you can't be like, yo, that joint was Shred. Never. You can't say that. You know, so as far as my catalog, you know, we got some joints, maybe not 20 years, but you know, some of them, I think this year is 15 for Cloud 9. That's the oldest one. This year, September makes 15 years. Then you got, you know, Salvation is what, about 12 years. You know, we coming up on 5 with some, we coming up on 10 with some, and it's a blessing that people can look at it like that. And the goal is 30 years from now, Heads is like, yo, the 30th anniversary of, you know, All the Brilliant Things is such an amazing album. It was a masterpiece then, it's a masterpiece now. That's personally what I strive for, is to make the music that lasts forever and just ring off forever, and people feel connected at the hip to forever.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah, you know, on a super quick, I think it's hard to compare like Nas to maybe where Skyzoo is, because also that time and period when Nas had put out It Was Written was considered, I don't know if it's the first or the second golden era of rap. I mean, you're talking about 95, 96, 97, 94, 95, 96, 97, where just like everybody was putting out their, you know, best albums of work. So it was a real high bar. And it's, I guess, unfortunately, the kind of the time that we're in now, and even like post 06, it's a different era in rap. So yeah, I mean, even, you know, all your works have been, you know, solid, but unfortunately there hasn't been as a high bar competition too. I think that's a part of the other challenge as well.
Yeah, well, it don't take away what I do.
No, by no means. No, it doesn't. But what I'm saying is that it's just that 94 to 97 era was a high. I mean, you got a Hardaway jersey back there. That was a high era. You know, that was like the golden era of ball. Like that 94 to 97 also was like golden era of rap.
To me, 95 is the greatest year ever. To me, 1995 is the greatest year ever for everything, from music to fashion to, you know, film to sports. To me, 1995 is the year, without a doubt.
Yeah.
94. The Knicks went to the finals in 94.
Yeah, but the only thing about 94 and 95, man, the Rockets, they pissed me off 2 years in a row, because I wanted the Knicks to win. They rocked the Knicks, and then I wanted the Magic to win, and they rocked the Magic. So I ain't messed with the Rockets for a long time. I still kind of don't. I love Houston, but I don't really mess with them because they did it.
Hey, Hakeem killed during Ramadan, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. No, I love two teams as a kid. It was the Knicks and the Magic. It was the Knicks because it was New York, and it was the Magic because of Penny. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, but anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, you know, so yeah, we saying the same thing where, like, you know, that era was just different. You know what I mean? That era was just, it was just magic. It was something in the air.
What just popped up in my head though is that, I said, your first official project came out in 06, and that was the same year that Nas was trying to say that hip hop was dead. And you know, we're 15 years behind that now. So it's like, I don't know, you know.
And the irony of it is with Nas is like it's easy to pick out like great albums out of his catalog. It's not easy to pick out like the best albums out of your catalog. I love Nas, but I mean the issue, you know, from what regarding the production aspects of it,
there's a quality goal. Yeah, there's a quality.
Right. You know, and I think the way you put that is ill, you know, because I feel the same way with the way, you know, somebody is great or they have a great album or what. Okay, let's just say an album per se. Let's just say one album. If an album comes out, let's take my album, all the Brilliant Things. If everybody's talking about one song, like, yo, that one song is everything. You got one song. But if everybody's favorite song is a different song, if my favorite song is Bodega Flowers, my favorite song is Culturist, my favorite song is St. James Liquors, my favorite song is Soft Eyes, you got an album. You know, it's like if you go to a restaurant and everybody say, yo, you got to go to this restaurant and get the chicken parm dish. That's it. Okay. But if you go to a restaurant and they say, yo, anything on the menu is a go, you got a great restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, so it's the same thing, like you said, with my catalog. It'd be all over the place. People love every album, but they'd be like, yo, my favorite album, Dream Deferred. My favorite album is Celebration of Us. My favorite album, Music for My Friends. My favorite album, All the Brilliant Things. Like, that's when you know you got something. Everybody joint is different. That means it's everybody across the board.
And as much as we love Nas, we I kind of point out about like a top 4, out of the catalog that kind of stand, that we say that's our favorites versus saying like the whole catalog is the favorite.
Right. It's hard to pull off a whole catalog, man. I've been dropping since 06. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to pull off. I think I have, if you do albums, mixtapes, EPs, collabo albums, I'm at like 24 projects, 25 projects. Like it's hard. Milestones, Bluest Note, Barrel Brothers, The Great Debater, Theo vs. JJ. Like it goes and goes and goes. I'm at like 25 joints. You know what I mean?
Shout out to Theo versus JJ, because was that LaShawn Thomas animation or drawing on the cover there?
He did that, yep.
Yeah, from the Boondocks, man. That I love his drawing to JJ, man.
That's been my man for a while. So he was working on I don't know if it was Black Dynamite. He was working on something at the time, but he put some time aside for me and did that on the love. That's my man. So I hit him, and he was like, "I got you," and he knocked that out. So yeah.
One time, right quick. I'm sure you've made a lot of connections, throughout showbiz or whatever. What's the one? Is there one time that you learned of who rocks with your music, who you just was like back, or just like really just threw you like, oh wow, this person really rocks with you?
I'm blessed to say there's a lot of those, but I think the sports stuff is what kind of gets me. The music stuff, I'm blessed and thankful for everybody who rocks with me, whether they go to Target to go to work or they sold 20 million records, and there's all of that. I have that whole gray area is filled with people, but the sports people, man, like BJ Armstrong, like that's my man. He's a huge fan and supporter. You guys are Chicago. There you go. Let me see. Jamal Crawford. My man Mello. Mello's my guy. My man Mello. I think the sports stuff kind of hits me the craziest because I'm a sports guy. Malcolm Jamal Warner. He's not sports, but Malcolm Warner. But like that type of stuff, the unexpected stuff, the people within music. They're your contemporaries and your peers, and they're in the room with you. So I got an album dropping, you got an album dropping, so everybody's hip to each other's work. But I think the people who aren't in music, who are like larger than life celebrities on their own accord, I think that's the stuff when I'm like, yo, this is wow, this is crazy,
Okay. We're gonna wrap on this, giving your
I do got it.
The theme. Yeah, especially with the cover of All the Brilliant Things about gentrification and all that. Is St. James Liquor still up on the block there? What is it?
It's a pharmacy.
It's a what?
It's a pharmacy.
It's a pharmacy. Okay. What are your thoughts on the way that your neighborhood has changed over time? And was that the main focus, right, of your speaking on that?
Yeah, I mean, I made a whole album talking about how I feel about it. It's just like, there's good and bad with it, I mean, the liquor store turning into a pharmacy is technically a good thing because it's helping people as opposed to killing people. But, so that record is just more so about the area, and it's not about save the liquor store. Like, nah, that's kind of silly. It's really, and it's pharmacy now. It's not like it became something like it's good. It's pharmacy. I used to be in there all the time filling prescriptions. You know what I mean? So, but it's just about the changes. It's just about the changes in the neighborhood. And for me, it's just when the neighborhood is taken from you as opposed to enjoyed with you. You know, the album's not about saying, yo, if you don't look like us, don't come over here. Like, nah, that's ignorant. You know, the album is about you can come here and enjoy this neighborhood with us. You can live with us, live next to us, enjoy it. All the things that brought you here. Feel free. But don't kick us out while we're here. Don't change the way we live for your benefit. You know, you read the story about how Spike Lee Pops would play his instruments every Sunday morning for like 40 years. And people moved in next door and within 3 months was trying to get him kicked out of the building because they were like, yo, why is this jazz being played on a Sunday? What are you talking about? Like, he's been doing this for 40 years. Nobody has a problem with it. It's one day out the week where he plays for like a half hour. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, you moved here because of that, because you saw Mo Better Blues and you saw Do the Right Thing and you saw all those things and you liked how the neighborhood looked and you was like, this is cool. There's a lot of culture here. I want to move there. And then when you get there and you're in the middle of the culture, now you want it gone because you can't sleep late because you was out drinking till 5 a.m. and you can't sleep late because he's playing piano at 11 a.m. That's your fault. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, it's those things. That's what it's about.
That's when people talk about colonizers. That's the type of stuff they talk about right there.
100%.
Or yeah, I mean, it's more. I think it's, you know, I think those are the unfortunate. I mean, those are some of the stories that stick out, but it really comes down to money. I mean, it really comes down. I mean, and
justification is about bread.
Yeah, you even characterize it on on the album. I think you mentioned somebody offered. I think you mentioned somebody offered your dad to buy a building back in the day, and he was passed on it. And I think it's just really about, unfortunately, the outside forces just saying we can make money here, and I mean it's them trying to squeeze a dollar out of anything. Squeeze a dollar out of anything and beating us to it.
Right. Yes, about the bread. Yeah, the brownstone owner, the dude who owned the brownstone, he was a cool guy too, cool older white guy. He was a real nice guy. My pops was 34, like I said, on Plugs and Connections, you know. And my pop, he was 34. He didn't understand. He didn't know. He never owned no brownstone. Now he's owned multiple homes, owned a building in Atlanta, owns a restaurant now. So now, of course, but when you don't have those plugs and connections, and what I meant by that and why I titled it that, when you don't have that, when you don't have the people around you to teach you that or to help guide you through that, then you don't understand it. You don't realize it. And that's what that record is about.
Somebody posted one of those "I'm not my ancestor" comments on IG recently, and I corrected them. I was like, one, you can't make those comments because, one, your ancestors didn't have the knowledge that you had, knowledge and opportunity that you have. Right. So to make those comments is real short-sighted. I mean, and truth to be told, our shoulders are probably are not as strong as they were.
Most people who put that up don't know what the fuck they talking about. So
they're trying to get a certain context and a message across. They're just trying to say they don't take shit. You know, you ain't gonna do to me what you did to him, but they don't understand the depths of what they're saying. But it's part of the game, man. But man, cut it. I do gotta run. But
we appreciate it, man. We really thanks a lot for holding on. As long as we didn't want to get you all this long, but thanks for holding on with us. We appreciate you, bro. We really glad to hold up your music and hold you up, man. You really one of the essential guys out here doing hip hop, man. So we wish you the best, man, going forward with your touring, with this project and all your future projects, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all 100%. You know what I mean? And I'm around, so I'm sure we'll tap in again.
We definitely. I'll definitely try to get up with you when you get in Chicago, man. Definitely. Love to,
sure. See y'all out there for sure.
I met you at the Elbow Room, but you probably don't remember that. But that's cool though.
No, I remember that show. It was crazy, man. But yeah, I'll be out there in about a month or so. So once we lock all this in, so I'll see you there.
No doubt, Scott. Peace, bro.
All right, yo, in a minute.
All right. Peace.
Dave, right quick, man.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up. You good?
Yeah,
man. What'd you think, man?
I mean, he was great. I mean, I think everything was looking forward to just being able to kind of, I guess, talk about his albums and meander a little bit off topic to talk about, different cultural issues going on, about where his role is and place in, rap is, and how he compares himself to the greats. And he handled everything very well. And I think, and also very tactfully. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
people in the business are not always as skilled in that aspect of it. Whether it was, how do I feel amongst the grades, or it was clearing samples, whatever it was, he was always able to, or gentrification, he was always able to, address it in a tactful manner. And that's something, and more than anything, extremely humble, which is for someone of his standing, at least, our personal sites is definitely refreshing. It was great.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed talking with that brother, having a good he gave us a good 90 minutes, man. I know he was ready to move at the end there, but it's all right. I'm sure he got a lot of other things to do. Peace to him and his family and everything. And yeah, man, we like I said, just really appreciate everyone who watched the show tonight. If you got any thoughts on Skyzoo or anything else that we talked about tonight, man, feel free to hit us up on social media. Hit us up on YouTube, hit us up on hit War Media up. Of course, if you're watching this on our Twitter, keep in contact. If you got anybody that you want to see on this show, man, you'll feel free to let us know the recommendations. Look, you never know how you can hit people up. Like I just inboxed Sky, and he came on. Sky, again, when you talk about how humble and he is and whatnot. He handles all his own media, so he doesn't have any in between people or nothing. If you want to get him on the show, if you got a show, I recommend it. Hit him up. If you want to talk to him, he'll hit you back. So, and you get a show like this, like we had tonight. So, definitely appreciate that, man, and like I say, wish him the best. And I'll definitely make aware to our audience when he's in Chicago. So when I hear, because I'm definitely hear about it. So, but yeah, for now though, we gonna head out for tonight. We maybe on our next show we'll just build amongst ourselves and talk over things that's going on in the world. But yeah, we just gonna leave the interview at that tonight. And yeah, that's it for now, man. Hey, Dave, anything else? Your birthday coming up pretty soon, man. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. Feeling good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we yeah, I guess we'll be on before then because that's like towards the end of next week.
Yes, next Friday.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do before then. But yeah, until then though, I'm Kyle, that's Dave. From Chicago to LA. We wish you nothing but love, peace, happiness, and head grease.
All right.
If you got it.
Peace.